Why on earth would Walt Disney cancel one of the most popular shows on TV? We'll find out next on Rerun Zone.
Fantasy, sci-fi, nostalgia, Rerun Zone.
To find out the real reason that Walt Disney himself canceled Zorro at the peak of its popularity, we have to look back to see what he was up to in the 1950s. The 1950s were a turning point for Walt Disney. Television wasn't the bloated industry that it is today, and Walt had big dreams of expanding his empire. In 1954, Walt made a bold move and decided to build Disneyland. He imagined it to be a theme park like no other, a place where families could come together and have fun together. But building Disneyland was expensive. Walt needed more money, so he turned to television and to the ABC network for help. ABC was a new network at the time, and they were eager to work with Disney. Walt struck a deal with ABC. He'd produce TV shows for them, and in return, ABC would help fund Disneyland. It seemed like a win-win situation. The first Disney show on ABC was Disneyland, premiering in October 1954. The show was an instant hit and featured behind-the-scenes looks at Disney productions. It also promoted the upcoming Disneyland park. Walt didn't stop there, though. He created even more shows for ABC, with the Mickey Mouse Club debuting in 1955. It quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Kids across America tuned in every day after school. Then on July 17, 1955, Disneyland opened its gates for the first time. It was a massive success. Families flocked to the park. Walt's dream had become a reality. But Walt wasn't content there. He kept pushing for more. In 1957, he launched a new original adventure show on ABC.
And now for the most famous caballero, the masked avenger of early California, Zorro.
Zorro was different from Disney's other TV offerings. It was a live-action adventure series that wasn't a Disney creation. Zorro was based on a much older source, first appearing in 1919. He was the creation of pulp fiction writer Johnston McCulley. McCulley's Zorro was a masked vigilante fighting for justice in Spanish California in the year 1820. He was already popular in novels and films, but the Disney TV series brought the character to a new generation. Guy Williams played the lead role of Don Diego de la Vega. By day, he was a wealthy caballero. By night, he became Zorro, defender of the people. Wasn't Guy Williams the coolest, most charismatic guy on the planet? I mean, come on, he was born to play Zorro. With his classic good looks and his radiant smile, Guy could pull off playing the bookworm Don Diego and the swashbuckling, dashing hero Zorro without blinking an eye. And the swordplay on the show was real. Guy never used a stand-in for his fencing battles. And when he battled his arch-nemesis, Captain Montestorio, neither one of them used a double. Williams had been fencing for years, and Britt Lamont, who played Captain Montestorio, had won several tournaments for swordsmanship. To help with the routines, fencing master Fred Cobbins was brought in to give them further instruction. Gene Sheldon played Zorro's mute servant Bernardo with charm and humor. He was Zorro's eyes and ears, and was the Alfred to Williams' Batman. In real life, Gene was also a mime artist and musician, as well as an actor. Henry Calvin played the likable but bumbling Sergeant Garcia, who was the comedic foible in the show. Friend to Don Diego and a reluctant foe to Zorro, Calvin played the role with gusto. The show was a major hit for Disney and ABC. Kids loved the action and adventure. Adults appreciated the historical setting and clever writing. The show's popularity led to a merchandise boom. Zorro toys, costumes, and other products flew off the shelves. The theme song became a hit in its own right.
Out of the night, when the full moon is bright.
At its peak, Zorro was one of the most watched shows on television. Despite its popularity, though, Zorro only ran for 2 seasons. This totaled 78 episodes plus 4 hour-long specials. It seemed like the show could go on forever. But behind the scenes, there was trouble. Walt's relationship with ABC wasn't very good. There were legal issues that came up between the two companies, especially when it came to ownership rights and profits. When Zorro was coming up for a third season renewal, Walt faced a hard decision. The show was still popular, fans loved it, but Walt was worried. He feared that children's tastes were changing. What if they'd moved on to something else? Walt didn't want to invest in a show that might be losing popularity. There were other factors too. The production costs for Zorro were high. The elaborate sets and costumes were expensive. Walt wondered if it was worth the investment. The legal issues with ABC added another layer of complexity. Walt didn't want to continue working closely with the network that he was fighting in court. In the end, Walt made the tough call. He decided to cancel Zorro. It was a shock to fans and to the entertainment industry. People couldn't understand Walt's decision. The show was still highly rated. It had a dedicated fan base, but Walt wouldn't change his mind. He alone was in charge of making the final decision. He thought it was better to end the show on a high note. He didn't want to risk it becoming stale or unpopular, even if it meant disappointing some fans in the short term. The cancellation of Zorro marked the end of an era. It was the last live-action series that Walt produced for ABC. So that's the story of why Walt Disney himself canceled Zorro, which was one of the most popular series on television at the time. If you watched Zorro in first run or in reruns, tell me what you thought of the series in the comments below. This is Rich from Rerun Zone. I'll see you next time.